The sun rose over New York City, casting a warm glow on the skyscrapers of Manhattan. It was a Tuesday, September 11th, 2001. The air was crisp with the promise of autumn. Commuters hurried through Grand Central Station, coffee in hand. The Twin Towers pierced the clear blue sky, symbols of American economic power. Few could have imagined that this ordinary morning would soon transform into one of the darkest days in American history. Yellow taxis darted through the streets, their horns a familiar symphony. On Wall Street, traders were preparing for the opening bell. But high above, in the vast expanse of the morning sky, a terrible threat was approaching. The first sign of trouble came at 8:46 a.m. Eastern Time. A deafening roar ripped through the air, shaking buildings and shattering windows. People on the streets looked up in horror and disbelief. American Airlines Flight 11 had crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. The impact sent shockwaves through the city and beyond. The impact of Flight 11 left a gaping hole in the North Tower, instantly igniting a raging inferno. Black smoke and debris billowed into the sky, visible for miles around. News of the crash spread like wildfire, transmitted through phone calls, news reports, and the internet. People everywhere watched in stunned silence as live television broadcast images of the burning tower. Inside the North Tower, chaos and terror reigned. Thousands of people were trapped above the impact zone, their escape routes cut off by fire and debris. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, their sirens wailing through the streets. Firefighters, police officers, and paramedics bravely charged into the burning building, determined to save as many lives as possible. As firefighters battled the blaze in the North Tower, a second plane appeared in the sky. At 9:03 a.m., just 17 minutes after the first impact, United Airlines Flight 175, also from Boston and bound for Los Angeles, slammed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. This time the impact occurred between the 77th and 85th floors, unleashing another wave of fire and destruction. With the South Tower also ablaze, it became horrifyingly clear that this was no accident. America was under attack. The world watched in disbelief as the iconic Twin Towers were transformed into towering infernos. The attack sent shockwaves across the globe, marking a new era defined by terrorism and fear. A third plane, American Airlines Flight 77, crashed into the Pentagon at 9:37 a.m. The impact caused a massive explosion, collapsing a section of the Pentagon. The fourth plane, United Airlines Flight 93, departed from Newark, New Jersey. At 10:03 a.m. it crashed into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. The heroic actions of the passengers prevented the hijackers from reaching their intended target. The immediate aftermath of the attacks was met with shock, disbelief, and overwhelming grief. The world watched in horror as the events of that day unfolded, struggling to comprehend the magnitude of the tragedy and the loss of innocent lives. The attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon claimed the lives of 2,977 people from over 90 countries, leaving an unfillable void in the lives of countless families and friends. In the wake of the attacks, the world came together in a remarkable display of unity and solidarity. Messages of condolence and support poured in from across the globe, transcending political and cultural boundaries. People everywhere mourned the loss of innocent lives, offered prayers for the victims and their families, and stood united against terrorism. Section 5. Inside the Terror Network. The terrorist group Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, claimed responsibility for the 9/11 attacks. Bin Laden, a Saudi Arabian-born militant, had declared war against the United States in 1996, citing U.S. support for Israel, the presence of U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia, and sanctions against Iraq as justifications for his call to arms. Al-Qaeda, meaning the base in Arabic, was founded by bin Laden in the late 1980s during the Soviet-Afghan War. The group's ideology is rooted in a radical interpretation of Islam, promoting violence against the West, particularly the United States, as a means to achieve its political objectives. The 9/11 attacks were the culmination of years of planning and preparation by Al-Qaeda, representing a significant escalation in the group's campaign of terror against the United States. The 19 hijackers involved in the 9/11 attacks were members of Al-Qaeda, primarily from Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and Lebanon. They had infiltrated the United States in the months leading up to the attacks, obtaining student visas and attending flight schools to learn the skills necessary to carry out their deadly mission. Section 6. The War on Terror begins. The 9/11 attacks had a profound impact on US foreign policy, leading to the launch of the War on Terror. President George W. Bush declared a war against terrorism in the aftermath of the attacks, vowing to hunt down those responsible and prevent future acts of terrorism. The War on Terror had far-reaching consequences, including the invasion of Afghanistan in 2001 to topple the Taliban regime, which had provided safe haven to al-Qaeda, and the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Based on the Bush administration's claims that Saddam Hussein's regime possessed weapons of mass destruction and had ties to al-Qaeda. The War on Terror also led to increased military spending, the expansion of surveillance powers, and the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, a new cabinet-level department tasked with protecting the United States from terrorism and other threats. Section 7. Life. After 9/11, security and fear. The 9/11 attacks had a profound impact on American society, leading to increased security measures at airports and other public places, as well as a heightened sense of fear and vulnerability. The Transportation Security Administration, or TSA, was created in November 2001 to enhance security protocols at airports nationwide, implementing stricter screening procedures for passengers and baggage. The 9/11 attacks also led to the passage of the Patriot Act, a controversial law that expanded the government's surveillance powers in an effort to prevent future terrorist attacks. The Patriot Act sparked debate about the balance between security and civil liberties, with critics arguing that it infringed on privacy rights and gave the government too much power. The attacks also had a significant impact on American culture, leading to a surge in patriotism, a renewed appreciation for first responders, and a heightened awareness of the threat of terrorism. The events of 9/11 served as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the importance of vigilance in the face of extremism. Section 8. Remembering the Fallen, Rebuilding Hope. In the years since the 9/11 attacks, memorials have been erected at the sites of the attacks to honor the victims, commemorate the resilience of the American spirit, and serve as a reminder of the importance of peace and understanding. The National September 11th Memorial and Museum in New York City, located at the site of the World Trade Center, features two reflecting pools that stand in the footprints of the Twin Towers, inscribed with the names of all those who were killed in the attacks. The 9/11 attacks also inspired countless acts of kindness, compassion, and generosity as people from all walks of life came together to support the victims, their families, and the communities affected by the tragedy. The attacks demonstrated the inherent goodness and resilience of the human spirit, even in the face of unimaginable loss and suffering. Section 9. The Enduring Legacy of 9/11. The 9/11 attacks continue to shape the world today, influencing global politics, security measures, and the fight against terrorism. The attacks highlighted the threat posed by transnational terrorist organizations like al-Qaeda, leading to increased international cooperation in intelligence sharing, law enforcement, and counter-terrorism efforts. The 9/11 attacks also had a profound impact on the Middle East, leading to the US-led wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, the rise of new terrorist groups like ISIS, and ongoing instability in the region. The attacks continue to shape the political landscape of the Middle East, fueling tensions between the West and the Muslim world and posing significant challenges to regional peace and security. Section 10. Lessons Learned, Lessons Shared. The 9/11 attacks serve as a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance, unity, and understanding in a world increasingly interconnected by globalization and technology. The attacks highlighted the need for international cooperation to address transnational threats like terrorism, as well as the importance of addressing the root causes of extremism, such as poverty, inequality, and lack of education. The 9/11 attacks also taught us the importance of resilience, compassion, and the enduring power of the human spirit. In the face of unimaginable loss and suffering, people from all walks of life came together to support one another, rebuild their communities, and honor the memory of those who were lost. The legacy of 9/11 is a complex one, marked by both tragedy and resilience, reminding us of the fragility of peace and the importance of working together to create a safer, more just, and more compassionate world for all.